Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the WTF1 podcast. I think that's the most emphasis I've ever given the start to an introduction for our WTF1 podcast. But of course, I've got my two waving minions, as always, Tommy and Katy. I think they actually waved in unison this time, which is beautiful. And we're here to talk about the Styrian Grand Prix. It's not the Austrian Grand Prix. For some reason, they changed it around because the first time it was Austria, then Styria. This time it's Styria, then Austria. Don't know why. Don't ask me. Maybe one of you have the answers. But anyway.
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Well, it's because the
Sorry,
calendar.
WTF1 founder Tom Bellingham. Please carry on.
Oh, here we go.
Goodness sake. We'll just say because we did actually starting to get comments of people thinking that's not a joke now. I know 95% of people understand that's a joke, but apparently some people genuinely think that I am genuinely there telling them before, make sure you introduce me as the WTF1 founder or I'm going to kick off.
And people think that you're my boss as well. And people also think that you pay my wages.
I know. It's all a lie.
All of that is a lie. Well, you are the founder. That's true.
That's true.
You did find WTF1 somewhere, maybe in a bin. Katy, hello, WTF1 editor.
Hello.
Welcome back to this wonderful occasion. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Made my Quali Watch Along debut this weekend.
You did?
And haven't been cancelled, so all going well.
That's impressive. That was the one thing I was worried about was you cancelling yourself. No, absolutely not, Katy. You are well within your limits usually, apart from your opinions on most drivers in ABCD F1. Of course, Tommy and Katy did the Quali Watch Song for the first time because I was off doing some F1 TV commentary, and you did a very good job, both of you. Well done. Anyway,
the point that I was actually
point. Go on. Then.
The race was the Austrian Grand Prix, but when the calendar got changed, they did the double header, but Austria stayed in the same place so that could remain the Austrian Grand Prix at that exact date, and they didn't need to faff about with it. That's why the Austrian Grand Prix is second. There you go.
There you go. Thank you so much, Tommy. And also want to say hello to the Team WTF1 live podcast listeners right now, part of our Team WTF1 membership. So welcome to you guys in the chat. We'll have a few questions from you as we move along. Right, 3-word race reviews. Let's dive straight in. Boothie_46, Sad George Noises. Aaron _W01, Where's the Rain? And Christine Tudhope, I Fell Asleep.
Such positive reviews already.
It was bound to happen at some point where we didn't have an absolute worldie. Well, actually, no, we've had Monaco, so we've already had some sort of practice for that. But
knew that was coming.
But I'm not sure we expected Austria to be maybe as dull at the front as it was. But the midfield was still pretty entertaining, and I didn't fall asleep. I don't think many people fell asleep as such. It wasn't I don't know.
Rest the eyes for a few seconds between laps.
Yeah,
maybe.
just pop on social media a little bit. But either way, I kind of agree with most of them. It wasn't exactly the most entertaining.
We've been spoiled this year. I think
we have.
Is also part of the problem.
Yeah, we've had too many bangers. Our expectations go up, and then we expect worldies every single week, and that just does not happen. Right, my 3-word race review. I'm going first today. Don't care about you two. Verstappen is ready.
Tom Bellingham liked this. Yeah.
I know. Well, yeah.
You're in your orange shirt. You're Super Max fan. Now
I'm wearing
who's the
WTF1. I don't know if you can see that or not. I was actually wearing an orange shirt in IBR yesterday, and people are going, "Oh, you're wearing the same shirt?" But that was actually a Fernando Alonso deck chair one. We just have loads of orange shirts because we're WTF1. Anyway, yes, Verstappen is ready, and I think that's just utterly convinced me. And I think this season has generally kind of been convincing me along the way. But I think now Max is ready to win this title, like 100%. Like he can absolutely take it to Lewis. 1v1 was, that was pretty much a 1v1 against him and Lewis. Probably had a slightly better car from the gap that he eventually managed to pull out. But at the same time, he's utilising that package. Perez didn't manage to utilise it maybe as much this weekend, but Max is just getting the most out of it every single race weekend. And it's crazy to think he could have won 4 in a row had he not crashed in Baku, which is, I'm sure, very sad noises from the Tom Bellingham camp. But it's it's great to see that. I genuinely think Max can win the world title this year now, and I still have a slight doubt whether Red Bull can keep up this momentum all the way through the year. And you just know deep down that Mercedes are going to get a grip of it at some point and make a charge back. But Max could definitely do this.
I think he can. I mean, obviously, like you said, that would have been 4 races in a row that he could have won had he not had the tyre blowout in Baku. And he's always had, the natural ability there. That's been evident since day one. I mean, he was one of the youngest people ever to join Formula One, and lots of people questioned whether it was the right decision because he was literally just a teenager. But he's always proved to be mega quick and have such great skill behind the wheel. But now he's matured with age. I mean, I say with age, he's 23, so he's still 2 years younger than I am. But
he's had like 6 seasons in Formula One, hasn't he? Is that right?
Yeah. I think since 2015 he made his debut in Australia. So, I mean, it is looking very tasty, and that we could get a proper, like, a different champion this year. I mean, I know we say it every time, we're literally like 8 races into the year out of a possible 23 race calendar. So much could change, but if you were a betting person, you might start to think, actually, maybe the odds are in Max's favor for this championship. But I don't want to write it off because it's still so early days.
We've only had 8 rounds, haven't we? Such a Frantisek in the Team WTF1 live chat just put minerals because they know that I love to
that phrase.
He's got the minerals. I think he does, doesn't he?
He has, though. I think, if Max Verstappen had done a year where he'd maybe made quite a few mistakes, you'd be like, this is the first year he's had a championship winning car. And he's, like you say, he's almost won 4 in a row. He's finished first or second in every single race if it wasn't for Baku. What he's doing is absolutely incredible, and he seems so chilled about it as well, which surprises me. How I feel like a lot of the pundits and the press are really trying to dig at the whole, like, they want Hamilton and Verstappen to get really heated and stuff, and every time they talk to him, he's just like, I'm just focusing on myself. I don't care what Hamilton's doing. Not thinking about the title, saying all the right things, and he just seems so relaxed about being in this amazing position that he could actually take a championship already in his career.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you're very happy about that. So there you go. Katy, where did your mic go? You had a mic. It appeared out of nowhere. It looked like you were about to drop some fire raps, and then it just disappeared again.
That put me off as well. I got Frank moving around Katy like
I wasn't sure if my audio would be too quiet, so I tried to discreetly move my mic, but it's a huge microphone, so it kind of was just like poof.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. I just wondered, people probably wondering, where's it gone?
I'm going to drop my mixtape any minute now.
Please do. I probably won't read the first part of this name out. Peeing on the moon, we'll call it. Is Max now the real deal? We've pretty much answered that. I think we're all a resound yes on that. Let's see, towards the end of the season, if it continues that way, when the championship becomes actually tangible. Rain_Vroom. Being a power-defined circuit, did this race prove that the Honda engine is more powerful than the Mercedes? I think that the Honda unit definitely seems to be the better package when you look across the season so far. I think they work slightly differently in the fact that the Mercedes is supposed to be a bit better on the top end, but Honda's a bit better through the sort of mid-range of the engine, as that's how I understand it anyway. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously not all going to come down to the engine, but at the same time, we hear from Hamilton most of the time, where am I losing the time? On the straights. But then that it's not just the engine, that it could be their aerodynamic setup as well. If you put more aero on the car, and you're going to be slower in a straight line. So there's all kinds of things that, variables at play here, that it's not necessarily just down to the engine, but it plays a big part.
I think that's exactly right. And, you've got to look at the other teams that are supplied by the Honda power units and the Mercedes power units. And somebody like Lando Norris, he looked blisteringly quick on qualifying on Saturday. And he's obviously got a Mercedes power unit in the back of his car. So it's going to be a very boring answer, but I think it's probably about even Stevens, if that's a very niche reference point or thing to say.
We're boomers.
Yeah, we're boomers. We are. It's a great TV show. But yeah, I think it's kind of, they've got roughly the same, which is another reason why we're seeing so much variety and having these, little mistakes. If Hamilton makes a little mistake or Verstappen makes a little mistake, we have to talk about these things, because at the end of the day, that's going to be what decides this championship. But it's, a fairly level playing field, I think.
I think a lot of Red Bull's performance on the straight, I wouldn't necessarily say it's because the Honda engine is now suddenly a million times better than the Mercedes. I think, like you kind of alluded to, Matt, that they're able to run normally with Red Bull. In seasons gone by, they could have had the greatest engine in the world, and they run so much downforce on that car a lot of the time that they always struggle on the straights. Now they've got this advantage where they're so much quicker around the corners, they can strip some of that wing off they're running quite, a light rear wing, which allows them to be quicker on the straights. And because the car is so good this year, they still can carry the speed in the corners, and then that helps with tire wear, and it's just a win-win-win basically for everything Red Bull. Like
win-win-win.
Exactly. It's that track was perfectly suited to them. But I thought it was strange that Hamilton brought it up in the race. He seemed very defeatist to be like why are they having that conversation in the race? Like why are they so much quicker? It's almost like that's the kind of team debrief, not the kind of thing to be having during the race. But maybe Hamilton was that uninterested as well, because I don't think he had much going on, because he didn't exactly have pressure from behind or enough pace to fight the front.
I can understand why Hamilton would probably ask in terms of where's Max quicker than me in particular corners and whatnot. But at the same time, he's probably not very used to having a different car being faster than him. If it's ever Valtteri, you can just go pop over to the other side of the garage and see what data's there. Whereas, they don't have the answers to exactly why Red Bull are quicker, and maybe it's just it's probably affecting me a little bit because he's so used to being in the dominant car and only has to beat his teammate. Tanay Mishra, Team WTF1 member, asks, what can Mercedes realistically do now? Do a Haas focus fully on 2022 and ignore the current car? No one wants to do a Haas. I think that's pretty much goes without saying, really, with how bad their season's going. But I think no, they're not going to give up yet. We've only had 8 races. We've got hopefully 23. There might be a couple of cancellations. We're not sure, but 23 races, fingers crossed, which means we're not even near halfway into the season yet. Hamilton is less than a win behind. It's by no means over. Of course, we do go back to the Red Bull Ring this weekend as well. So I can't imagine much different. Of course, we go to a step softer on the tyres, which could change a little bit, but I don't think it's actually going to help Mercedes, because Mercedes aren't particularly good or better on the softer tyres. So it may even be a bigger gap between Red Bull and Mercedes. But they can't give up yet. Of course, this whole chat about, they have to pick a point where they go, right, that's enough development for this year. We now need to focus on next year, because, these current regulations are only lasting till the end of the year. 2022 is going to last for a lot longer. So you have to kind of decide how many eggs you want to put in each basket, So I think if you're Red Bull, I don't know. For me, I feel like it would still be a transition for both teams at kind of the same point. It's just whoever's ahead will most likely keep that lead. I don't know. It's so difficult because obviously you're not in a Formula One team and it's just speculation. But one thing that also goes into that whole equation is the cost cap, and it's $145 million, if I remember correctly. And crashes, things like that, all take away from the spend for next year as well. So you have to kind of think of all these different variables going on, and then just decide, right, okay, we've run out of money for this year. Now we move on to next year.
It's crazy to me how many people seem to just want to write this season off already and be like, that's it. Red Bull have won it.
Second place between them, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's an 18-point gap. Not forgetting that Mercedes, I'm still adamant, had probably the quickest package in the last race. The way they were hustling both Bottas and Hamilton, Max, in that race, it was just difficult to get past.
The last race being the French Grand Prix.
Grand Prix, yeah. And they were quicker in Spain. They were quicker in Portimao. I do think it's going to change from track to track. So just because Max has had this dominant race at a track that really suits them, like we said, they can run that perfect setup. They even won that race back in the era where Mercedes were untouchable. So it's not known for being the greatest Mercedes track in the world. And the gap, it's 18 points. I saw Philip Horton on Twitter tweeted the gap. So if you remember last time we spoke about it, I don't think we could find the exact number of what it was, but in 2017 Vettel had a 25-point lead at one point. 2018 he had a 17-point lead. So it can happen. It's 18 points. It's going to change race to race, and also it's Mercedes, it's Lewis Hamilton. They have won the title almost every year. If you're writing off Lewis Hamilton, especially at the end of the season, he's had these deficits before and he just turns it on and can just do unbelievable things. So it's looking like it's going to go down to the wire. I can't believe some people are just saying, "Oh, that's it." Like Mercedes aren't developing just because they're talking about, "Oh, we're probably not going to develop as much anymore." Could all be mind games, if anything, just to try and make Red Bull step off the gas a bit.
And would people be saying this if if Lewis hadn't locked up into turn one at Baku, he'd be leading the championship right now? And would people be saying like, it literally can swing in one race?
Yeah,
totally. One of the points I've made for this comment is literally never write off Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, because even previous years, Hamilton's had teammates like Nico Rosberg, and we've seen it at the beginning of a season. For some reason, Hamilton just doesn't seem to get into the swing of things straight away, and maybe Rosberg is running away with the championship in the first few races or whatever, and Hamilton comes back. And like you say, the margin between Verstappen and Hamilton, it's because it's so foreign and we're not used to seeing somebody ahead of Hamilton in the standings, that maybe people are starting to panic and think, oh God, Mercedes are just throwing it all away. Mercedes aren't a team. They're not just going to go, do you know what? It's 18 points ahead. We might as well just, rip off this page and put it in the bin and focus on next year. Like, there's a reason that they've got so many constructors championships and, provided the drivers championship to, every driver since 2013 with Hamilton and Rosberg. So yeah, I think it's daft to write them off. And I mean, Hamilton was saying some things that he probably shouldn't have done in the post-race interviews, talking about money and maybe Red Bull are just spending more money on their car this year and that's why they're quicker, which, I mean, naturally, because it's Lewis Hamilton and people love to jump on anything Hamilton says, people are going, oh, well, maybe he just can't accept that they've got a quicker car, or he's throwing his toys out the pram. Like, you hear it every single year. As soon as Hamilton says something, possibly a little bit negative about competition, people are, oh, he's such a sore loser and all this kind of stuff. But if it's role reversal, it's like, oh, well done, Max, if Max was to say something like that. So it's just one of those things. But I think there's also been talks that Mercedes have said that they might not be bringing any more upgrades kind of to the next few races or even for the rest of the year, which is quite an alarming thing when there are reports that, Red Bull are bringing even more upgrades to the second race. So this race this weekend in Austria. But yeah, I don't think they're necessarily going to do a Haas. I don't think any other team on the grid are going to do a Haas apart from Haas, and to just focus on 2022. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame that we have to be having these conversations because, like we've said in so many previous podcasts, like, just enjoy it. Like, it means that we go to every single race and we don't know which way the scales are going to go. And we've had that so little in Formula One over the last, decade, that just enjoy having that variety as you come into a race weekend and not knowing who's going to be on the top step.
Just enjoy it. There you go.
We've had, after 8 races, we're used to the championship being done, aren't we? And saying Hamilton's won it. And yeah, it's not happened this year. So, like, say, enjoy it.
If you think Lewis Hamilton will just let a championship go by round 8 of 23 and he's less than a win behind, you are very much mistaken. Let's just put it that way. And I do love how in the post-race interviews, it's always their car was quicker this weekend. It's never Max drove better than me. It's never Lewis drove better than me.
But he's not going to want to say
I know. No one will say that. I'm not just saying for Lewis.
Ego.
I just love that every F1 driver is that way. Like, I am perfect. The car was better. That they had a better car. I just love it. I love their mentalities. It's not just Hamilton. It's everyone. Right. We move on to a quick promo about our WTF1 Clubhouse at the Silverstone British Grand Prix. Full capacity has been confirmed, which is very exciting. A little bit, maybe slightly premature, but who knows? We'll find out. But it's full capacity at the British Grand Prix, and if you want to come along and camp with us, it's pretty much selling out. So if you want to get in and chill with us and have some great times and DJ and food and a bar and what else we got? A big screen film night, and we've got like a massive marquee thing, haven't we? And there's showers, there's toilet, it's a whole full-blown camping shenanigans going on. And we will be there in the heart of it. So if you do fancy coming camping with us, with some like-minded F1 fans, other Team WTF1 fans, you'll probably make quite a few friends as well over that weekend, then please do check it out. The link is in the description below if you want to find out more about WTF1 Clubhouse. So yeah, there you go. Tommy, let's go to you.
Okay. My through-road race review is more Russell heartbreak. And yes, it's now the point where we have to talk about that. It's hard to know what to say, really. It's the fact that he actually almost got into Q3, but then Tsunoda had a penalty, so he moved up, and you're thinking, wow, he's already in the points when he started the race. Okay, now he's 8th. He's made up places at the start. And you thought, don't say anything. This could be it. And then, of course, something goes wrong. This time, it wasn't a mistake from him. The car failed on him in the pit stop. He had an engine issue. And yeah, you've got to feel for the guy, but I think you've got to feel for Williams even more, because for Russell, you've got to think that him being 8th in a car like that is already showing people what he can do. But for Williams, him getting 8th place could be the difference between them finishing 8th or 10th in the championship. So, yeah, it's just, you just can't write it with Russell. It really does feel like it's a curse. No matter what race, even the last one, the one time he finishes 12th is where there's no DNF. No. So you just can't write it. It's almost, yeah, it's unbelievable. The poor guy. But these things happen. I guess it's motorsport. Motorsport's not easy.
Yeah, you make a good point that it doesn't really matter to George as such, but it definitely does matter to Williams, who are trying to survive. Of course, they got a massive new investor in Doralton Capital, I think they're called, aren't they? So, yeah, obviously for Williams, they need those millions of pounds that the difference is between 8th and 10th. And that would have leapfrogged them in front of Alfa Romeo. I think they may be already ahead of Haas, aren't they? Because George finished 12th. So they're sitting 9th at the moment. But yeah, that could have been huge, because as we've kind of mentioned in the podcast previously, and I think I mentioned it in Internet's Best Reactions as well, was that Williams have created this car that it'll work maybe on 1 or 2 weekends. It worked at this weekend. They could have got points, and then they could have had the worst season for the rest of time. But Alfa Romeo may not score points either. So that was where they really needed to make the most out of George Russell's pace. Of course, Latifi wasn't really anywhere. But George, yeah, it's just, you just can't. Yeah, as you say, you can't write it. It's just the poor bloke. Honestly, you can see how much it means to him as well. I think not getting into Q3 was actually a good thing anyway, as much as he'd love to have had that accolade to show off. Him starting P11, and P11 in general seems like a really good place to start if you are in the midfield and you can't comprehensively get into Q3 and maybe start 5th or 6th. 11th is great because you get free tyre choice, and you can go for whatever strategy you want. So yeah, for George, it was a bit of a strange, confusing team radio message originally when they were like, plan B, we've got a problem with reliability, go faster. It was like, oh, got a problem, go faster with problem reliability. Of course, that was then kind of alluding to the pneumatic pressure thing that was going down, and they could pit, maybe they were probably thinking they could top it up a couple of times with a 2-stop. So yeah, sad times for Williams.
I just want to know who George Russell wronged in the previous life to get, the curse like this.
Let's not go too far. He's a Formula 1 driver. I mean, his life isn't too bad.
He is, but he just has the most unbelievable luck. Obviously, you could say, well, crashing into Valtteri Bottas and Imola, or crashing behind the safety car were kind of his own fault. And to that, I'd say, you're right. I agree. But yeah, it looked to be going so well. And, there's all jokes on social media of don't tweet anything, don't say anything. It's funny because last week, Tommy put George Russell points in his predictions before taking them out again. And I mean, I think it's probably for the best. Yeah, it was enough. It's Tommy's fault. No, but this is the thing, like, you can't even say, oh, I hope George Russell has a good race, because then if he doesn't, then everybody comes down on you and goes, it's your fault or whatever. But yeah, it was super unfortunate. And I think there aren't many F1 fans that don't want to see him get those points and see Williams back up, and, after the terrible few years that they've had, especially like long-standing F1 fans that have been following the sport for a long time. Williams have got such a special place in F1 fans' hearts that, there aren't many people that don't want to see them do well and get these points and hopefully have them come back to the midfield or, in a dream world, fighting back up at the front. And they've had a terrible year. The Williams family themselves, like Claire and Frank, departing the team, like that must have been such a difficult decision to make. And, it was their life. So for them to suddenly say, we're going to bow out here and do the right thing in their eyes, can't have been an easy decision. So yeah, just generally just mega depressing and upsetting and gutting, I think George Russell called it. But then he said, racing is brutal, which is very true. I think, it's Lance Stroll, I think, in Drive to Survive that says sometimes you love the sport and it doesn't love you back or something like that. I feel like I haven't made that up, but I very much could have just made that up.
Maybe he's talking about his daddy.
Yeah, probably.
Racing F1, son.
Yeah, but it was pretty heartbreaking, as Tommy's 3-word race review sums up nicely.
Very heartbreaking. We've actually probably covered the 2 questions we had lined up as well from Team WTF1 member Ricardo P41, who was asking about George's luck, and then Rohit Deshmukh, which was about what went wrong with Russell's car, unless either of you have anything else to add on what went wrong. No?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Just loss of air from the pneumatic system. It's not a common thing to happen. It's quite rare, but teams are prepared for it. And, like we said, as soon as we had plan B on the team radio as a strategy, I think most fans kind of had an inkling that something was wrong. But yeah, they're basically topping it up in the pit stops, but that's not a quick thing to do. Can take between 10 to 30 seconds. And so even if he had continued on with this issue and not retired the car, he would have been way out of the points. So
it's a rare thing to happen. So it happens when George Russell is running.
Yeah, obviously, naturally, why not?
Funnily enough, someone in the live chat right now just said, from R-Dun0, Matt, you may need to restrict your girlfriend candle responsibilities. Now, for people that haven't seen my girlfriend on Twitter, Sophie Brearley, her name is, she just for some reasons decided to put little wishes like rain for Styria and George Russell points and things like that. And to be fair, they started to come true. Then you replied to one, didn't you, Tommy, about Yuki Tsunoda, and then that immediately caused him to have problems.
It wasn't too bad. Yeah. The
was it like Yuki Tsunoda good qualifying or something, and you were like, yeah, I'll take that, and then you replied to it, and then something bad, and then he got a penalty.
Yeah, he got a penalty.
Your curse is ridiculous at the moment, Tommy. Like I know I'm known for jinxing. You're really bad.
Is it now I can admit that actually about 5 laps before George Russell's failure is when I messaged Katy on WhatsApp and said, I just remembered about the thing in the podcast where I deleted my Russell
points. You need to stop talking.
Yeah.
You need to literally just stop saying things.
We'll just keep Tommy in a wooden box between races so he doesn't do anything.
I've jinxed a few times in my career. One of the times I think I was actually out in Bahrain and I tweeted, I'm really bored of Charles Leclerc dominant races or something, and then he went and obviously lost his engine power. But Tommy, you've outdone yourself these last few weeks. It's ridiculous. Katy, 3-word race review.
Mine is big DRS train, which is basically referring to the midfield and the fact that everybody was following each other and we hardly got any overtaking. And lots of memes were born because
overtaking. I want to challenge that.
Well, okay, so we got some good overtaking in the first few laps. The first few laps were pretty exciting and tasty and stuff like that. Ricardo especially, and Charles Leclerc, which we'll go on to, just basically wiping out like a few cars with his mistake. But it just wasn't as exciting as I think a lot of us were expecting. Maybe that is because we've had so many amazing races that our expectations are too high, but it just ended up being that everybody fell into this DRS train as it was known, and not much was really
especially the bit with was it Alonso that had the train right at the start, which was massive. It went all the way back to Vettel, didn't it? And no one could get by, even though I think it was clear that a lot of people behind, especially someone in a Ferrari, could get by. But yeah, Austria can be hit and miss with overtaking, I feel.
Yeah, it's quite funny because a lot of people like F1 esports drivers complain about the F1 game and the DRS trains that happen in the very top tier of racing, but we saw it in real life, and I think probably some of that is because there's now 3 DRS zones around Austria, and literally, as soon as you're in that train, there's no real sort of, and also the fact is there's not probably it's not one of the hardest tracks on the calendar, is it? It's 10 corners, one of which is a kink that you don't even need to like lift for, so it's not exactly a technical circuit that can allow for maybe as many driver mistakes, would you argue? I don't know. It just doesn't, when you look at it from a track layout perspective, it doesn't look particularly.
The DRS trains is probably, and this is probably for another podcast because we could do a whole podcast on this, is why I'd much rather see like a KERS push to pass than a DRS where people can use it at different times rather than everyone having it always at the same time, because then it just makes the overtakes either all happen at the same corner or it just cancels everyone out.
Absolutely, I agree. Tom Robson, why was the race less interesting than normal, and do you think next week will be more interesting with different tyres? I think we've kind of covered that. DRS train, 3 DRS zones for, I think, genuinely, I think 3 DRS zones probably was too many, and maybe we introduce KERS in the future, who knows? But in terms of the tyres, it being softer, will maybe lean more towards a 2-stop potentially. Especially if we get the high track temperature of track conditions that we had this weekend, which the air temperature wasn't that high, but the track temperature was about 55 degrees at one point during the race. So it was very high. And obviously the softer compound you go, the quicker they'll deteriorate. So I don't know if we'll get an interesting race at the front, because as I alluded to at the start, I don't think Mercedes worked very well on the even softer compounds. So we'll see. If we can get some rain, there's already chatters about weather forecasts, and I'm not believing it anymore. I'm not getting excited. It's a bone dry weekend until I see rain literally falling on the track.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a 2-stop, because it was kind of marginal. If you saw what happened at the end with Perez, it showed that 2 stops, you could pretty much, the way the tires were going, you could get your whole lap time almost back. And I think Perez needed about 1 more lap, and he probably would have got Bottas. But I think, thank goodness, we are getting different tires. I feel like Austria is one of those races though where the bangers in Austria have always been from safety cars at strange times. Thinking back to, sorry, Albon fans, but the Albon incident was because the safety car came out at the perfect time and people could switch tires, and that's why it ended up being so exciting, and last lap Lando and all that kind of stuff. But when there's not that, we've not had many incidents or like safety car. I mean, the last race, luckily the last race was really good, but there wasn't even a yellow flag, was there, in the last race? So these F1 drivers are just too good.
The cars are too easy to drive.
Yeah, clearly.
Oh no, we're not going to start that, are we? Yeah, I think it'd be good that we get some different tyres for this weekend, because we saw with the double headers last year that they switched them up. Like for Silverstone, we had different for the British Grand Prix and the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. And they both provided like fairly different races. So yeah, I mean, there's not really much more to add other than I think it was a necessary thing to try and spice bits up. But yeah, we just need a bit more action and stuff going on, because I don't know if I'll be too happy with another duplicate race of what we just had.
Yeah, me too. Maybe just go the other way around. Let's do reverse.
Yeah, do reverse one. It'll be fine.
Very interesting. Right, let's move on to Charles Leclerc, driver of the day. Now, he got driver of the day. Some people were discussing it. And the people that come in, right, on social media, because I put out and said that I thought Carlos Sainz deserved driver of the day. Some people replying going, why do you care so much? Why are you crying? This, that, and the other. Why, it's just a meaningless award, blah, blah, blah. It's still there to be discussed, my friends. Like, it's still there to be spoken about and discussed as to which one we think deserved it. Otherwise, we don't discuss it. What's the point in the award in the first place? It's there to be disagreed with, and I disagree with it. Where did Sainz come? Because I know it comes up on the screen. Was he second or third?
He was on
the ranking. No, oh no, I thought you meant in the race.
He wasn't even top 3.
Wasn't top 3.
No, it was Leclerc, Russell, Verstappen, or Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell. Can't remember which order, but I'm pretty sure it was that. Sainz was just your classic, back to his McLaren days of just really good forgotten drive.
Yeah, and no TV time as per. But yeah, I think Leclerc driver of the day. Of course, he did do an amazing recovery drive. Don't get me wrong. I'm the first to jump on a great drive from Charles Leclerc, but he caused the incident with Pierre Gasly by literally turning in too early to get back into the slipstream, causing Pierre Gasly a puncture, causing 2 more crashes to happen behind with Latifi, and was it an Alfa Romeo as well? Got caught up in
Giovinazzi,
yeah,
I think.
Giovinazzi got caught up in the incident as well. So for me, Leclerc caused a bit of chaos. I mean, obviously didn't mean to do it, but still had to pit early. And then the strategy wasn't that bad because he managed to get rid of the soft tires that didn't massively work well, sort of towards the sort of the second half of the first stint for a lot of the drivers. They were kind of tootling around, but going on the hard tires, was able to push really hard, caught up to the back of the pack, and then made loads of moves. Was great. Don't get me wrong. But Carlos Sainz had a flawless race from P12 on the grid all the way up to P6. Managed to extend his, I think it was medium stint, really long. Had great pace, and fair, he didn't entertain as much, but I thought as driver of the day goes, he probably was up there.
I wasn't happy that Charles Leclerc got it just straight up. I think it was completely flawed that he won it. Obviously, he's got a lot of fans, and like you say, you can't deny the fact that he had a good recovery race, but he shouldn't have been in a position anyway to be in a recovery race. Like, he'd done well so far that weekend, started P7, decent result. And then he ended, he ended Gasly's race. I mean, Gasly should get driver of the day for the drive he had back to the pits with all of his damaged car. Like, he was on 2 wheels at one point. And then ruined Latifi's thing because Gasly clipped Latifi. And then, like you say, Giovinazzi as well. And although Leclerc was punished for that because he had to come in for a new front wing and stuff like that and go to the back of the grid, like, his maneuver still affected 3 other drivers' races and ended one of them. And for that, I think not only should it have been investigated, and I think that a penalty should have been awarded, but then the fact, that he won driver of the day, I just think is a bit of a
he was lucky not to get a puncture from Kimi as well, because he clipped Kimi's tire. But I felt the wrath of Leclerc stands after putting something on Twitter about
all my burner accounts.
Yeah, all your burner accounts about making a joke that driver of the day, realistically, it's the entertainer of the day. Someone that provided the most fun, because realistically Leclerc ruined his own race and then just drove back to where probably he should have been anyway, which someone made a very funny point that that's the thing Alex Albon used to get roasted for, is having an incident at turn 1 and then finishing where the Red Bull probably should have finished. And you're like, well, why is he messing up at turn 1? But I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity for Ferrari, because Leclerc's pace was unbelievable. Like you said, he was so quick. And you never know, if he hadn't have had that incident, maybe he could have been fighting Lando, because Lando was just on his own the whole race.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think Carlos Sainz said that he reckons he could have got Lando, but he was really unlucky because he was stuck behind Hamilton and not quite quick enough to unlap himself. And I think he ended up unlapping himself eventually when Hamilton's tyres did go. But he believes that if he could have got past Hamilton earlier, he had like fresh hard tyres to just absolutely go ham and try and
go ham,
good
pun.
Go past ham and fight Lando. And unfortunately, we didn't see that, because, I mean, we'll go into it in ABCDF1, but Ferrari need to get every point they can for third in the championship, especially while Danny Rick isn't on it. These things, it's so close between that Ferrari and McLaren that they need every point they can.
Agreed. Team WTF1 member Alex H asked a question that Katy's already answered. Should Leclerc have got a penalty for the lap 1 incident? Yes, I genuinely think so. The fact that he got driver of the day, I completely forgot that he turned in early on Kimi as well and nipped his front wing. Like, it's things like that where you go, did he drive that well with those kind of incidents happening in the race?
Because he's misjudging his car quite a bit.
Yeah, which is weird, isn't it?
I think he said, I think the thing, what it was, is you do have those incidents at turn 1 that sometimes you don't think they deserve a penalty. But I think why Leclerc probably should have had one is because it was his misjudgment. He decided to tuck behind Gasly, and he just did it way too early.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
almost
he
like he
just-
didn't think he had a front wing or something, wasn't it? It's,
Yeah.
very strange. A question from Zvilnik. Maybe do Driver of the Day voting like Eurovision? Fans only get 50% of the vote and professional judges get the other 50%.
Hello, I love that idea.
I love it. Who are the professionals, though?
Yeah,
And
that's true.
Yeah, and it
Us.
takes 2 hours to go through all the votes.
Guest Driver of the Day judges, WTF1 coming in. Can imagine
Yeah.
the amount of hate we get for that. Right, I think it's now time for pressing the button. Now it's time for WTF1. No.
That was such a good rendition. I think I would just
That
not
was
put the jingle
Yeah,
in.
just
all
open
of
it in. Yeah, just leave it in that. Cool, nice. Right, remember, before we dive into this, you can also vote too. WTF1.com, Katy Fairman's domain, her home, the website. Please go
My
over there
baby.
if you fancy voting, so that you don't get angry with ours. That's basically the way we want to do it. Right, okay, let's start with Mick Schumacher. Oh, we're mixing it up.
Right.
We're mixing it up. We can just go straight
I
in.
hate it when you do this.
Yeah, I know. Just throwing you both off with all your notes. Meanwhile, I've just got a blank sheet of paper ready to chat. Rubbish. Mick Schumacher. I mean, see?
See, I've gone for a C.
Yeah, 16th.
Yeah, 16th. Okay, cool. And the fans gave him a C. Nikita Mazepin.
D.
He actually was up to
Yeah.
15th at one point in the race.
I
at the
know.
start,
Yeah.
and was having a little ding dong with Mick Schumacher. You went for a what? Sorry, Tommy?
I went for a D just because he was again really far behind at the end. I'd love to. Well, I wouldn't because it's not that interesting. But if I could just watch a whole race of the Hasses at one point, because I think Mick Schumacher fell quite behind him again, and then always just somehow manages to get really far ahead, and you kind of it
Yeah.
almost goes unnoticed, and then you look at the end and you're like, how is Mick Schumacher like 40 seconds clear at the end?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I'll give him a
think-
D.
Yeah, I'm going to go D as well.
And the fans gave him an F. Shock. Nicholas Latifi. I think that's. I mean, where did he finish?
17th.
D.
It wasn't his own. It wasn't his
Yeah,
fault.
he had the
he
trouble
got
at
caught
this
up.
turn one.
But
yeah.
I'm judging that as well on the fact that he
On
just wasn't there in
George.
qualifying, wasn't anywhere near George's pace. So D.
Yeah.
He did put some nice, quick little times in
Oh yeah.
Q1.
When he banged it in PA in Q1.
Yeah, we were
Oh.
like, sorry.
Oh,
Just
what?
where
And he still
just
didn't
where
make it
Latifi-
through.
Oh no.
He peaked a bit too early in that session, didn't he?
Yeah. I've gone for C, but I don't think. No, I don't
Gone
think
for
it
a
is. I think
C.
it is a D. I think.
D.
Yeah, I'm going D.
I mean, he gets clipped, but I don't think did it cause much damage to the car? Do we know? Like he carried on, didn't he? And he didn't.
He
have to
made an
pit or
extra
anything,
pit
so-
stop. I feel like he
Mm.
did make an extra.
Oh,
Pit.
did he? Okay, but I'm still giving him a D. And the fans gave him a C. Katie, you happy with? You look like you're about
Yeah,
to say something?
I've got C down, but maybe D is. I'll go for a D.
It doesn't matter because me and Tommy have gone for a D. So
I'll go
Averaged
C.
out.
I'll stick with my C then.
Like a,
even though it
Okay.
doesn't
it's
matter.
like a maths exam where you're like, what answer did you get?
this is like an ASMR podcast now.
Oh no.
Okay, and Latifi got a C from the fans. George Russell. All we can judge him on was his performance, which was certainly an A star.
Yeah, I've got an A-star as well.
A star.
The fans gave him an A. God,
What
wow.
the
stingy.
hell?
Yeah, let it out, Katie. Go on. You
Sorry,
tell
that
them.
was really loud. I'm sorry to headphone users.
Let it
but
out.
That is ridiculous.
I know he
He did
DNF'd
so
and
much.
you can't tell where he was going to be, but you can only judge on
what he did. Yeah.
what he did.
Which
so.
was fantastic. And he was on the pace. It was Alonso that was causing the train, not even George Russell. So, yeah, it was a phenomenal drive. So the fans gave him an A. Giovinazzi, C. Where did he finish?
15th.
How did he
Uh,
finish 15th? He
he got-
literally qualified
He
ahead
got
of Kimi.
picked
Oh,
up.
yeah,
He got
he got
picked up
picked
in
up.
the
Yeah, he got
turn
hit.
one.
I forgot. I literally, I forget the amount of drivers that got caught up in the Leclerc thing. Yeah, okay, so maybe let's give him a C.
Yeah.
C and
I
move
think
on.
C is fair.
Fans gave him a C. Kimi Räikkönen, he had a horrendous qualifying and ended up P11.
11.
Had a little
How come
fight
they
with
never get
Sebastian Vettel as well.
points?
Yeah, so tantalizingly close. I think that's a B for me.
Yeah, I've gone B.
I think it was a very impressive drive, considering that not much happened. And like when you look at people like Esteban Ocon in his Alpine, he had an absolute shocker. So I'm tempted to go with an A, but then Kimi has got points. Oh, I don't know.
You're giving
I feel like
Kimi an A for a terrible qualifying performance, then making the hard tyres work. Interesting.
Well, if he'd have got, I think if he'd have got points, I'd have given him.
Yeah.
10th.
I wrote B/A. So
I wrote
B.
I wrote B/A, to be fair. But...
Oh, okay, then I'll go with B. But a good B.
A good B that doesn't count. And the fans gave him a B as well. Esteban Ocon.
Oh.
Pretty horrendous weekend for him. I think it's a low D, but it's a D.
Yeah, D.
I've gone, D/E. I think maybe he's.
Why are you putting slashes in? When have we allowed this, Tommy? Don't start dropping slashes in. It's not allowed.
Yeah, D. Ocon's.
What's
the weird one?
What's going on with Ocon?
I'm shaking. I'm thinking I'm going to have to start shouting in London, you know?
I know. I'm feeling a lot more confident. Never in doubt.
Shut up.
What is the actual point standings between the two? That's what I want to know.
Imagine
standings.
Alonso's
Here we go.
Yeah, he'll be ahead.
Too. Let's have a look. Alonso has 19 points. Esteban has 12.
Alonso's going to start to absolutely walk over him now.
So let's just remind everybody what the deal was, please, you two.
If Ocon wins, I have to shout, "Sorry, Esteban" in London.
Wins the championship fight between Alonso, not wins a race.
Or wins the championship.
If Alonso does it, Katy has to shout, "Sorry, Fernando."
How confident are you, Katy?
Yeah.
Sorry, Tommy. What
I was going to say, and you have to shout, "Sorry, Gasly," when Yuki Tsunoda definitely beats Gasly.
Let's just remind you. Well, I mean, Gasly, how many points? Tsunoda has 9 points and Gasly has 37. So I feel quite confident at this point. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So there you go. That's a reminder of all of that stuff. So Ocon got given a D as well. Not sure if I said that. Fernando Alonso, I think he had a very solid performance. Kind of hauled that Alpine to a place it maybe didn't belong. Is it? Where did he finish? Was it 8th?
Who are we on about? Sorry,
Alonso.
Ninth.
I've
9th.
B for Alonso.
I think it's a B. Yeah, we'll go with
I've gone B as well.
Okay, the fans gave him a B. Yuki Tsunoda, he got a point, didn't he? Just a solitary point.
Unfortunate with the penalty.
Unfortunate.
I think, yeah. Well, not getting out the way, I guess, but it seems like I've been reading about his woes, and I think there's a bit of a communication issue with an engineer as well, and I think he burnt the tires out too early because he was told to push. And I think you do have to remember he is a rookie, because it's one of those things where F1 cars are really hard to drive. I haven't mentioned this before. I was going to mention it on another podcast. Do you remember, did you see the video where they were showing Mazepin at Monaco and they were telling him instructions and he was like, "No, this is a joke. I literally cannot be adjusting my steering wheel while I'm going around these corners." That to me makes you realize just how much these drivers are doing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And the step from Formula 2 to Formula 1, I think just not even the speed. I don't think it's even the speed of the car. I think it is just how much you can change on a Formula 1 steering wheel and all these settings, and how much you've got to look after the tires. And there's a lot going on. So
it's amazing how Tommy's saying all of this now to defend Yuki Tsunoda of all people. You didn't hear that, the years gone by in the podcast as soon as it's Tsunoda. God, there's so many buttons, aren't there, on the steering wheel?
More buttons. Yeah. I was just saying,
I know.
He's a rookie at the end of the day.
Everyone just thinks they press the accelerator, maybe just, don't, look after the tires, and that's about it. But, there's so many strap modes, etc. I mean, we heard it with Hamilton's team radio about him resetting his delta. I'm not sure if you actually heard that or not, but I heard it on the Pit Lane channel. Yeah. Anyway, Tsunoda, B.
I've gone B, yeah.
Yeah, fans gave him a B. Pierre Gasly, can't really rate him because he got yeeted. C. C?
I went for B
because
he had a good quality. His
quality
was good, and it's not his fault in my opinion. So B, even though it seems odd to give someone a B when they've driven 30 yards. But
yeah,
I
guess we then have to
only do what you can do.
Okay, and the fans gave him a C. Interesting. Lance Stroll, he actually had a pretty decent race, Mr. Lance Stroll. He was sitting in P6 for quite some time, finished P8. I would like to give Lance Stroll A B.
A. I'm giving him an A.
An A.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think he was
Giving him an
very
A as
good.
well.
Yeah, me too. I definitely said A.
Yeah, I think it lagged out a bit.
I know. I was thinking A. I was like, I don't know. I think you guys are going to give him a B. So I was like B, and then you said A. Anyway, okay. All right. I'll allow
Don't
that.
do slashes, Matthew.
Oh, Matthew. We're getting
Okay.
told off.
God, the founder. Here he goes again. Okay, so Lance Stroll.
Won't pay your wage.
Oh no, £0 from you. Lance Stroll got a B from the fans. So there you go. They agree with me. Kind of, because I changed my mind.
Well, you changed your mind.
Sebastian Vettel. He finished P12, lost in his fight to Kimi Raikkonen, which was lovely to see those two going sort of wheel to wheel. And
just like the old days.
C, because he was nowhere near Lance Stroll this weekend.
Yeah.
Maybe almost a D, you know, like it's virgin on it, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a very good performance from old Vettel this weekend. Kind of went under the radar very much so, but I'll allow a C, a low C.
We'll give him a C, so we're not cancelled.
Yeah, pretty much. And the fans gave him a C as well. Carlos Sainz, A.
Yeah.
A?
Yeah.
What's the delay?
I was going to say his qualifying was really bad, but he made up in the race.
You want to give him driver of the day, and you weren't even going to give him an A?
I think it just, but you have to think that he put himself down there, because I think, it's still an A. Still an A.
I think Carlos Sainz should have had driver of the day, but I'll give him a B in ABCDF1.
Well, we're mentioning qualifying as well, and he did mess up quite a bit. And he got out qualified by Williams. So,
wow, yeah, but Williams was pretty good. Okay, so Carlos Sainz got an A from the fans. Charles Leclerc, he obviously had that problem, then drove through the field, and it was still a very good performance considering he did yeet 3 people, but because he yeeted 3 people, I mean, unintentionally 3 people, maybe even 4 people because of Kimi Raikkonen's front wing, but didn't actually touch 2 of the other ones. But you see what I mean? Like 4 collective people got hurt.
Just give him an A* and get on with it.
No, I think it's a B, taking that all into account.
I've gone C.
I've gone D.
Ooh. You gave Charles Leclerc a D?
Yeah, I did. What are you going to do about it?
How do you kick from the call?
Yeah, or remove from meeting.
Yeah, I think I'm giving him a C because he probably should have finished 5th, and this is
he completely ruined his race and several other people's races with his bad driving.
Okay, come on. Right, it's a mistake. Okay, I will allow some Charles Leclerc slander for that, but I won't allow too much. It was a very small misjudgment. He didn't yeet Giovinazzi or Latifi. That was just part of Gasly not slowing down, even though it's weird because Gasly did slow down for the corner very, very early and then just kind of rolled in a bit too fast, even though he knew he had a puncture. So I'm putting some of that on Pierre. He should have just slowed down and got out of the way, but he didn't. Boom. Sorry, Katie, carry on.
I'm still giving him a D.
Wow.
There you go. Well, there's my unpopular ABCDE opinion.
Yeah.
ABCDE opinion.
If I missed a letter.
No, it's fine. Okay, interesting. So we
what do we do?
Different grades. So we go down the middle.
Well, it's down the middle at C. Which is correct.
Disgusting. And the fans gave him a B. So screw you both. Daniel Ricciardo, definitely D for Daniel.
D for Daniel.
I gave Daniel Ricciardo a C because I don't think it's fair to give Ricciardo the same grade or a lower grade than Leclerc when Leclerc made the mistake and that's why he dropped back, when Ricciardo had a power issue and was looking really promising up until that issue. I don't think it's fair to grade a mechanical error on the same as a human error. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I would, make
a valid point.
My counter argument would be that how bad has Ricciardo got that a great performance is 8th and then having a power issue. Was he 8th? Was it 8th when he had a power issue?
I think he was 8th. Yeah.
So it's not where he should be when his teammates qualify.
Okay, I'm gonna move to a C after Katie's TED Talk.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, I'm sticking to D. Daniel Ricciardo should not be. I think even if he had finished 8th, Still,
I think that's a C. If Danny Rick finishes 8th and Lando's
depends
5th,
how far behind his teammate.
100%
He thought he was
giving
going to
him a
finish
C.
in 6th. He said after the race he thought he could have finished 6th.
Yeah,
Looking
but
at
yeah,
he's
I mean,
trying to
performance.
save face a little bit.
Bottas thought he's going to win
Yeah.
the world championship. He's still not getting an A star.
Oh, and there it is.
Bottas
Damn.
slander now, love it. He's not even in the, not even talking about him. Bottas bashing. Okay, 100%. If we're in an alternate universe, Tommy, and Ricciardo finishes 8th, you're giving him a C. No way in hell you're giving him a D. Anyway, the fans gave him a D, so they agree with you. But we gave him a C. Doesn't matter. Lando Norris, A.
Yeah, A.
What's the
Yeah.
delay, Tommy? What were you going to go for?
I just don't think he could have done any more. But I think
you're thinking maybe A
I think you
star?
have to save an A star for podiums in a McLaren, really.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Lando A, and the fans gave him an A as well. Perez. Do you guys call him Perez or Perez?
I call him Checo or Perez.
Yeah, Perez. So I say
Perez.
Perez, but some people are like, why do you call it Perez, Matt? It's Perez.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the grade. Sergio, he had a B performance, in my opinion.
I've gone for C.
I've gone for A.
What?
Whoa.
A? Moving on. Max Verstappen, A star.
Yeah, easy.
I've gone for a 6. No, I haven't really. I've gone for an A star.
And the fans gave him an A star.
Can I also make a point with Verstappen? Because I got loads of people commenting last week that I only gave Verstappen an A. Obviously, you've seen that my ABCD ranking, somebody said in the chat earlier, who has, what is Katy on when she does these rankings? But for me, that was the perfect A-star performance, just the same as George Russell's was a great A-star performance. Like last week, he made several little slip-ups and, in my opinion, wasn't worthy of an A-star. Like I give A-stars out for like a blinding performance. Stop laughing.
No, I love it. You sound like a teacher. I'll give you an A star if you give me good work, okay?
Well, literally, like that's the whole point of it. Like there's no point in just chucking A-stars around like they're, like the Oprah gift. You get an A-star, you get an A-star. Like I think they really have to earn the A-star. And I think Verstappen did a better job this week than he did last week in Paul Ricard, hence why I gave Verstappen an A last week and gave him an A star.
However,
this week.
Katy, if we're looking at grading, when you're back at school, A stars don't have to be full marks. They could be 36 out of 40. That could still be an A star. And it could be a low A
Who's
star.
the teacher now?
Yeah, I'm just throwing in some reasoning. Anyway, Tommy's getting really bored. You can see him.
I am.
Yeah,
I'm like,
sorry,
why are we
sorry,
talking
Tommy.
about Baku results?
Yeah, I know. Katy's still triggered about some ABCDF1 grades from 3 years ago or something. Anyway, Bottas. Oh, I mean, the discussion's going to continue on because I think an A is about to come out from you here, Katy, for Bottas. It's definitely a B. Actually, we didn't mention for Perez that he did have a slow stop, which actually cost him that podium, which still doesn't give me an A.
Oh, yeah.
Let's remember that, Perez. Do you want to change that to a B, Tommy, now that you've been told that?
Yeah.
Doesn't change the grade, but sure.
Yeah, I will change it to a B.
And I'm going to Bottas a B as well. Tommy?
I've gone C for Bottas.
What the hell is this episode of ABCDF1? And you've gone for an A? Did we all watch the same race?
I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder.
I'm just going split down the middle every single time.
You sound like Twitter, Matt. How dare people have different opinions?
Wow, this is crazy. We've never disagreed so much in our lives. Tommy's all
really
sassy with the low grades. Katie's like, you get an A, you get an A, and I'm just straight down the middle. And the fans gave Bottas a B, so it doesn't matter. We agree technically with the fans on average. And Lewis Hamilton, D.
I went with an F.
A for Hamilton.
Gone for A, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Tommy looks like he wants to never do a podcast
I need
ever
to lie
again.
down.
Yeah. So.
Are you okay, Tommy?
Yeah.
Smile. Right,
Yeah.
predictions for the Styrian Grand Prix.
Hard work.
Was hard work. I went for a double points finish for Ferrari, which is correct, and a Lando top 5, which is correct. Yes!
Your really
Double
safe predictions
points!
paid off.
Oh,
Yeah,
shut
well
up. What
done.
was yours?
Leclerc top 3 in qualifying.
Good one.
And rain during the weekend, but a dry race. So
It's like a spot of rain, maybe.
Yeah,
few
there's a
drops.
spot of rain.
I'll
Counts.
allow half a point.
Would you have points?
Yeah.
I will award half a point because I literally saw 3 raindrops on a Friday. So
Yeah, 3 raindrops.
Katy.
Ricardo.
Sorry,
Yeah.
reading yours.
Ricardo finishes ahead of Lando Norris. I forgot to put in FP2, so that's a point.
Hello.
And then
she's learned from me. Nice.
I've learned from the best. And
0
then
points,
Carlos Sainz top 5 in quali. So no points for me.
0
But
points
can
for
we
Katy.
ask, because I want to know what points we're actually on, because we do this every week. I have no idea who's
No,
leading.
someone usually tops
Someone, yeah. If
can
someone
somebody
can
tweet
message
us? Yeah, and let us know.
Yeah, could the fans do our dirty work, because we can't be bothered to go back through the episodes? Is basically what
We're busy people.
No, but to be fair, there are people out there that actually love to do that sort of stuff, and especially for the ABCDF1 rankings, which I love looking at the end of the season. The fans, to Chanel Perez to get his second Red Bull win. VMP 1978 rain will bring chaos with 10 laps to go. That's actually half a point, because 10 laps to go, we were all talking about rain. So I'm giving half a point because it was chaos in our minds. No, okay, fine. I saw your face again, Tommy. You're really and finally, I like Formula One. At least one Red Bull or AlphaTauri mechanical failure during the race. Nah, not really mechanical.
Pain for being too specific. You should do really boring, safe predictions like Matt.
Sorry, I just need to get myself on the board and in the mix for the title again. Prediction for the Austrian Grand Prix. I've gone for Daniel Ricciardo doesn't make Q3 again, and Stroll beats Vettel in the race.
Your favorite prediction?
No, I usually it's quality. I've mixed it up.
I've gone for Norris outqualifies Perez again, and my more bold prediction is that this is going to be the race where Bottas is made to do team orders and move over for Hamilton in the race.
Wow.
Interesting.
Katy?
I have gone for Alonso top 10 finish again and a Pierre Gasly podium, because I think go big or go home.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, I've gone big as well.
You liar.
We've all gone big. Well done. The fans. Alex, F17335355879. Didn't read that up properly. But anyway, Russell Q3. R. Shepherd 1433. Ferrari out of the points. And AF 16001. Verhamper.
It's a very popular prediction, that. I think genuinely about half the replies were Verstappen, Hamilton and Perez as the podium. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be a Verstappen Hamilton shootout again, because Perez and Bottas were absolutely nowhere near them and definitely did not deserve an A in ABCDF1. And why are you rolling your eyes, Tommy? I'm not even having a go at you. Right, thank you so much, Tommy. Katy, final thoughts. One of you, go.
Tommy can go first.
Tommy's just like, I don't want to be here anymore.
I'm never doing ABCDF1 again. No, my final thoughts are, please be good next time with softer tyres. Let's hope for a 2-stop.
Actually, before I get to your final thoughts, Katy, I'm going to go with my final thoughts, which was what the hell was track limits? Because I think track limits was actually supposed to be a thing that was enforced, especially after 3 is supposed to be investigated. Charles Leclerc did 4 in 5 minutes and didn't get any sort of investigation.
Yeah, but yeah.
No, the actual race director note said that you're not allowed to do it.
I'm just going to say it. Charles Leclerc is getting in danger of becoming a bit of a teacher's pet that doesn't get penalties for things. Just throwing it out there. I think it, like you meant, well, I didn't even know that, but I kind of thought that after the turn 1 incident anyway, and I saw a lot of that going around, but that's just another thing to the list.
It's very strange, actually. Yeah,
I feel
wasn't even looked into.
Becoming a bit of a thing.
Katy, final thoughts?
And my final thought was going to be no more burnouts and start finish straight.
That's a good point. I was just about to mention that. We've not spoken about that. What did you guys think to that?
Absolutely preposterous. Well, what is Michael Massey someone did an amazing reply to our article, which was like, Max Verstappen crashes on the high-speed straight at Baku, waits for 90 seconds to let out a safety car, and then he does a burnout over the line. Nope, we will never do this ever again.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is about that, I saw a lot of people mentioning there was a crash with Latifi and Roberto Meri where they did the same thing. But Roberto Meri stopped on the finish line in a junior series race where they were all racing to the line. Max Verstappen had absolutely no one around him. Loads of people were also sharing videos of like Hamilton doing it at a race. Loads of people do it where they pull to the side of the track and they go really slow to wave to the mechanics and pull away. It seemed a little bit over the top. But the funniest thing I saw is Michael Masi getting nervous about that being too dangerous. Meanwhile, in the MotoGP, you had someone with a golf club trying to smack a golf ball while MotoGP riders were riding by, and he's there in the runoff area, like trying to hit a golf ball. I mean, oh my word!
How that isn't dangerous, by the way, I'll never know. Just smacking a golf ball into someone else's head as they're going past.
It's ridiculous. But
And
I mean,
also-
I can see. Oh, sorry, you go.
Carry on, Katie.
No, I was just going to say, I can see why there was some stressing that it could be dangerous. I mean, we saw Bottas in the pit lane have his spin, which we haven't talked about. And, you know, that was trying to put rubber down on the floor. Obviously, it's not quite the same as doing a celebratory burnout, but he lost control. And maybe Masi was thinking the same, that Verstappen could have lost control of his car, gone into the path of Nicholas Latifi, who was passing on his lap. So I think there is, it's not like he's been penalized for it or anything. It's just basically like a don't do it again. But the problem is that there's just no consistency with Michael Masi's rules. So either he needs to be strict on everything, or you know, the media will just naturally pick up on little pedantic things like this, and like you say, have these comparisons and stuff to previous things, like Leclerc not being able to drive around without a seatbelt done up. Nothing happened with that. So yeah, he needs to either knuckle down and be super serious on everything, or basically just not feed the piranhas that are the F1 media, because they'll just take what they can.
Yeah, I don't think Michael Masi's long for that job, to be honest. He's just so inconsistent, as you say, and he's had so many errors already. You know, there's just so many occasions that come into my head, like Imola, for example, when there was just marshals on the track and Lance Stroll was tearing around because he'd been allowed to unlap himself. And yeah, it's just many things like that. And it's just crazy that he'd then clamped down on that, but then not other things. You know, the clear issues like the safety car protocol, yellow flags, things like that clearly aren't well-oiled systems right now.
If he'd come out and said, okay, I've taken the feedback on board about all the questions about me not really prioritizing safety, and I admit I was wrong, and now I'm doing it.
I never admit.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that the fact is the inconsistency. You're kind of like, yeah, where if he's doing this, then okay, let's see that level when you, like you say, there's a course car on the track, or putting the safety car out immediately when someone's standing there in the middle of the road.
So I mean, those aren't very clear cut, though, are they, Tommy? You don't really know whether to throw a yellow flag or a safety car when there's someone on the track, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Why would you put a safety car out on a 200-mile-an-hour straight?
No idea.
But
doesn't sound very safe to me. Anyway, that was sarcasm for people that didn't quite catch that. We are British after all. That's been a very strange podcast, really.
It's been a weird one.
How long was it?
14 hours.
14 hours.
Yeah.
Nice.
And finally, we only mentioned about pit stop slowing down for Hungarian Grand Prix. But yeah, that's another thing that's happening, which we've actually got a video coming out very soon on the WTF1 YouTube channel, maybe tomorrow. So enjoy that. And we will see you very soon for we'll be back.
We will.
I'll be back for the quali watch along. Katie will return to the quali watch along at some point when one of us decides.
When I've sorted out my ABCD F1 rankings.
Yeah. When I've forgiven you, basically.
Yeah. Nice.
It's been full of bants. Tommy needs to go have a cold shower after ABCD F1. Thank you so much for watching. Please hashtag WTF1 podcast if you want to send any questions.
I was ready
feedback,
to do
whatever.
Yeah,
they've already started waving, and make sure to check out the WTF1 Clubhouse as well if you want to come camp with us at the British Grand Prix. And that's pretty much it. Bye.